Hey ladies, so as promised, I am going to show you how to stencil on your eyebrows, and I prefer to use powder versus a pencil. That's just my personal preference. I feel like the powder stays on a little bit longer than the pencil, so I'm going to show you this technique for me that I use for myself, and I'm going to just show you the stencil here that I use. And this stencil actually comes in a kit from Anastasia, and I'll put a link on my blog so you can just order it straight from there. You can see exactly what I'm talking about. You can also get stencils that are similar to this from Amazon. So this is a stencil I'm going to use. This is a petite arch. And the Anastasia kit actually comes with stencils, with tweezers, with some powder. It comes with a little bit of gel that you put on beforehand, and then also comes with a couple different brushes to use. So the powder that I use is actually powder from MAC. I prefer this powder over the one that came in the kit. It just happened to match my eyebrow a little bit better. But this is the brown that I use, and you want to get something that's going to match your hair color as best as you can. And then the brushes that I'm going to use, the first one I'm going to use is this angled brush, and it's kind of got a sharp angle on there. It's a little bit tougher, and this is the one I'm going to use when I begin to outline the stencil onto my eyebrow. And then the second one that I like to use is, it's kind of rounded, it's a little bit softer, and this one I will use to fill in the stencil. And this is just another example of that brush. Sometimes I'll use this one if the other one isn't filling it in well enough. And then the last one, which is the most important one, this one actually comes in the Anastasia kit. I couldn't find it anywhere else. So this brush is actually almost like a mascara brush. It's a little bit shorter, a little bit thinner. And this is going to be the last brush that you use to go when you brush everything out and make it, it'll give it a little bit more of a natural appearance. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with this stencil. And I'm going to stencil in one eyebrow, and then the other one I'm going to show you so that the ladies who are just beginning to lose their eyebrows or are just beginning to get them back, you can kind of see how you would put it on if you didn't have a stencil. So you'll see here I'm going to just go ahead and put this on my eyebrow. And it helps if you get this part a little bit wet, and this is just a makeup towel that I'm using. It kind of sticks it on there. Helps it stay. And you can just use water or whatever you prefer. So you just line it up as best you can, and when you don't have an eyebrow, what you do is you use all these lines as a guide. So this first one you're going to see is going to line up with the beginning of my eye here, and then this other one here you're going to see is going to end up at the corner of my eyeball there. And then the end here is going to just match up with the corner of my eye on this side. And you want the highest part of the arch to be wherever your brow bone is up there. And this may take you a couple times. Don't get discouraged if it takes you a few times to get it. I might pull this off and it might look crazy. Even after as many times as I did it, it still seemed like towards the end I was still trying to perfect it. So I'm just going to dab this in here on the brown and just get that edge, put some powder on that edge there. And I'm going to start stenciling just around the edges. And just keep dipping in there, and when you get to the edge over here, I suggest you just kind of do it really lightly, because if you do too much, it actually ends up giving you a thick edge, and I don't like to have the thick edge. If you like to have the thick edge, then play around with it, see what works best for you. But you'll see that I'm just kind of stenciling in this bottom here and going around the edge there. And then I'm going to use this small rounded brush to fill the center in, and it's almost just like you're coloring. You just fill that in there. And once you have everything filled in, you'll just remove the stencil, and you'll see that I have, somewhat of an eyebrow here. And I know it looks kind of funny now, but I'm going to show you how to fill the rest in so it looks a little bit more natural. And you're going to go back to using your angled brush again. And you're just going to dip it in. And then you'll see how the bottom here now, if I didn't have an eyebrow, you know, you'd be missing this whole part here, so it would look a little bit more natural, but I'm going to blend it in with my other eyebrow. And the angled brush is a great brush because it kind of lets you be an artist. And you can kind of fill that in and make it look as natural as possible. And then when you get to the edge, now this is where I was saying, when I get to the edge here, I really like to make my edge look a little bit thinner. So I just kind of pull it out like that. And you'll see that edge there. And you can see kind of where I messed up. So all I'm going to do is use this little makeup towel and kind of wrap it around my finger. And I'm just going to clean up that bottom there. And now you can see my eyebrow, how it goes out on the edge there. So now, the very last thing that I'm going to do is use this brush, the mascara looking brush, and I'm just going to brush everything out. And this is what's going to make it look just a little bit more natural. And you can see I'm just kind of brushing it, and this, you kind of got to use this a little bit harder to kind of blend everything so it looks like a natural eyebrow. And you just play around with it until you're, you know, it looks more natural to you. And this is what's going to brush it out and make it look like you almost have hairs there. So now I really don't like this part right here. So again, I'm just going to use my moist towelette here and just clean up that edge. And now I feel like that looks just a little bit more natural. And then, you know, if you need to clean up, you can also use a Q-tip. Just get a Q-tip nice and wet on the edge, and then you can clean up on the bottom. So that's how I stencil in my eyebrows. Also, I'm going to post a picture of, you know, when I didn't have any eyebrows, what my eyebrows looked like, so you can see, you know, what it looks like actually when I didn't have them, and you can see how natural they looked. So now on my other eyebrow, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stencil this one on myself, and that way you can see, you know, like I said, if you have your eyebrows just falling out or coming back in, how you can just do it on your own without the stencil, and you'll just, almost like the same thing, you'll just follow that same natural line. And I'm going to try and face you as best I can so you can see all of this. So you'll see my eyebrow right here up at the top, and I'm just going to start just to follow that natural line there. And you can see that line. And then up here where it kind of takes that curve, I'm going to follow along there as well. And now you can see that whole top part is kind of filled in. And now I'm just going to make a line right there. And it is going to look kind of funny at first until I get that brush at the end. And then just follow the bottom part. And trust me, I am not an artist, so this is just practice and doing it a bunch of times until I got it. I really did not like leaving my house without eyebrows. In fact, I don't think I ever did. So I always made sure that I did this before I left. And then, you know, you can see there how it's, you know, I kind of almost did my own stencil, but freehand, just following my own eyebrow. And then I'm going to use the same brush, that round-tipped brush, and you're just going to kind of want to turn it in there and get some powder loosened up a little bit and then dab it in there. And then you're just going to fill everything in. And just take your time filling in that thicker part. And my eyebrows are kind of thin, so I don't really need to do anything on the end there. The only thing I am going to do is do that same thing where I'm going to kind of make it long and thin at the end. And I'm sorry I can't look at you and do this. So you'll see there where I made it a little bit longer. And then back to this brush again. So you can see it kind of looks, you know, dark and painted on, or, you know, powdered on, or whatever the word is you want to say. And now I'm just going to brush it out. And you can see as I'm brushing it, it's starting to look a little bit more natural. You just want to go in the direction of the hair. So now that I have them both done, now I personally can see, you know, the differences in them just by looking in the mirror, but most people wouldn't be able to see that. So I would just go back and clean up a little bit up top and kind of even them out. But that's just me being the perfectionist that I am and trying to get it as close to the other one as I can. So that's what they look like, you know, one stenciled on, one that I did freehand. And, you know, I will say this to you, don't get discouraged because your hair is going to grow back. I do want to let you know that I lost all of my eyebrows and eyelashes at 2 weeks before my last chemo. And then they started to come back 6 weeks after my last chemo. So 6 weeks after my last chemo, I started to have a little bit of hair there. Then 7 weeks after, I could see like a definite eyebrow. And then at 8 weeks, I had this craziness going on, and I ended up getting them waxed for the first time. So I know 2 months sounds like a really long time to not have eyebrows, but I promise you, it goes by so fast. And just, you know, be patient when you're doing all this. And I'll put a link again, like I said, on my blog so you can see the Anastasia kit that was given to me. I remember when I lost my eyebrows and everything was gone, I can tell you it was a little bit more traumatic. In fact, it was way more traumatic than losing the hair on my head. It was really hard for me to accept that part of it. But this is a great alternative to get them, you know, give yourself some eyebrows when you're going to leave the house, and just keep practicing, just like with the scarves. Just practice, 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 and eventually you'll get it. And you know, there were times where I had one eyebrow here and one eyebrow way up here, and you know, you just take it off and you start over again. It's makeup, you can start over. So thank you so much. I hope you guys like this tutorial, and I hope it helped you. Have a good one.